Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series of distributed generation and smart grid. So, as we all know that fossil fuel deposit on the earth is depleting day by day, and atmospheric pollution and global temperature is increasing due to the increased use of fossil fuels. So the concerns over environment and increased demand of energy have led the world to think about renewable energy resources like solar energy, wind power, fuel cells, natural gas, biogas, combined heat and power systems, Stirling engines, micro turbines, and their integration into the utility grid network. So, this type of power generation is termed as the distributed generation, and the energy resources is termed as distributed energy resources. So, the term distributed generation has been formulated to differentiate this concept of generation from the conventional centralized generation. With the integration of DG, the distribution network becomes active, and hence it is termed as the active distribution networks. So, a conventional power system uh, facing the problems such as I told, gradual depletion of fossil resources, poor energy efficiency, and environmental pollutions. So we are now thinking about distributed generation. So generating power locally at distribution voltage level by using non-conventional or otherwise mostly the renewable energy sources like natural gas, biogas, wind power, solar photovoltaic cells, fuel cells, combined heat and power systems, micro turbines, and Stirling engines are, and their integration into the utility distribution networks comes under the distributed generation. So these kind of resources are termed as distributed energy resources, and the distribution network become active because of these distributed generation is integrated to the grid. So the power flow can be in either direction. So locally we can generate the power from different distributed energy resources, and we can transfer the power from load and to the grid also. So the now network become bidirectional. So this kind of grid is also known as active distribution networks. So let us see some of the main examples of distributed generation. Here, first one is a reciprocating engines. So here the primary energy is a diesel or gas, and we'll get a AC output voltage. A low cost, high efficiency and availability to use various inputs are the advantages of this kind of diesel power generation. And the disadvantage is the environmentally unfriendly emissions are there. Some other type is gas turbine. The primary energy is diesel or gas. Output type is AC. The advantages are high efficiencies using CHP. That is, we can have a tri-generation like combined heat and power. Heat energy loss also can be retained for a for the use of some other purposes, so that both the power production and heat energy waste can be utilized. Hence, the high efficiency of the entire system can be improved. It is environmentally friendly, cost effective. The disadvantages are that it is too big for small consumers. And another type is a micro turbine. Here the primary energy is biogas or propane. Output type is AC. The advantages of a micro turbine are small size and lightweight, easy startup and shutdown, low maintenance cost. The disadvantages are expensive technology, cost effectiveness, which is sensitive to the price of fuel, environmentally unfriendly. These are some of the disadvantages of micro turbine. Another type of distributed energy resource is fuel cell. The primary energy used are hydrogen and nitrogen. Output type is DC. The advantages are one of the most environmentally friendly generation, extremely quiet, useful for CHP and electricity applications. The disadvantage is that extracting hydrogen is expensive. Hydrogen fuel is expensive. Expensive infrastructure for hydrogen. That is, the fuel itself expensive, and the infrastructure that is required to extract the hydrogen also expensive. Another type is wind energy. Wind and solar are the mostly used distributed energy resources. It is having the high potential. So primary energy source is wind itself. Output type is generated as AC. The advantages are day and night power generation is possible for a wind type energy conversion system. One of the most developed renewable energy technology is wind. So there are technological development coming in the wind energy conversion system. Disadvantages are still it is expensive to install. Storage mechanisms are required as the wind energy is environmentally dependent. So we need a storage mechanisms. Geothermal is another type of distributed generation. The input energy is hot water. Output type is AC. It is extremely environmentally friendly, and it is having a low running cost. But the disadvantages are there are some environmental impact also. Even though it is listed in advantages, it is having some environmental impact. Then non-availability of geothermal spot in the land of interest. The next one is the photovoltaic systems. Photovoltaic systems, the primary energy, as you all know, it is sun. Output type is DC power is generated. It is emission free and useful in variety of applications. The disadvantage is that high initial cost or upfront cost, and the storage mechanisms is required because it is also highly dependent on climate conditions. Then biomass gasification. The primary energy is biomass. Output type is AC. It is having minimal environmental impact. Available throughout the world, alcohol and other fuels produced by biomass are efficient. Disadvantages are it is expensive, a net loss of energy in small scale. So the loss of energy is there in a biomass production if you are implementing it is in a small scale type. Solar thermal. It uses the sun and water. Using the sunlight, the water is heated up and that energy is utilized. The output type is AC. It is simple, low maintenance is required, operating cost nearly zero, and it is a mature technology now. The disadvantages are unknown operations and maintenance costs, low energy density, and limited scalability. That is, in order to increase the power generation capacity, there are few uh, uh, barriers. Then small hydropower generation is also comes under distributed generation. Large hydel power generation is the part of our conventional power generation. Small hydropower generation, primary energy is water. Output is generated as AC. It is having economic and environmentally friendly, relatively low upfront investment cost and maintenance, useful for providing peak power and spinning. Disadvantages are required suitable site characteristics. That is, you cannot install a small hydropower at any site you require, but it requires some small head of water. Difficult energy expansion. So it can be only implemented in a particular location where there is small energy water head. Then ocean energy. Here the primary energy is ocean wave. The output generated is AC. It is having high potential, high power density, more predictable than solar and wind, but still the technology is not much developed to tap the ocean energy. So disadvantages are unknown operations and maintenance costs, lack of such kind of commercial projects availability. So here we discussed or mentioned some of the distributed energy resources, its advantages and disadvantages. So some of the universally accepted common attributes of distributed generations are listed. That is, what is the speciality in a distributed generation? The first one is, it is not centrally planned by the power utility nor centrally dispatched. That is, a distributed generation is not a central power generation. It is distributed among the load and it is decided mostly by the consumer. They generate the power at their load end side and it is integrated to the grid. So it is a distributed generation and it is not at all centrally dispatched or centrally shared. Normally a distributed generation size is smaller than 50 megawatt. Okay. Then power sources or distributed generators are usually connected to the distribution system, which are typically of voltage level 230 bar 415 volt up to 145 kilovolt. Usually it is connected to the distribution voltage level. So these are the three common attributes in a DG. And why we require integration of a distributed generation? So as we already discussed, depletion of fossil fuel reserve is the important factor that is the reason behind to think about distributed kind of generation. And we need to reduce the environmental pollution also. So reduction of environmental pollution and global warming. Also, distributed generation provides better scope for setting up of cogeneration, trigeneration, etc. Cogeneration or trigeneration, like that, in a power plant, the electrical power is generated, there are byproduct of heat energy. So that heat energy can be utilized, that can be recovered and can be supplied to some heat loads. So the entire efficiency of the power plant can be improved. So the combined heat and power plants for utilizing the waste heat for the industrial, domestic or commercial applications are possible. And due to the lower energy density and dependence on geographical condition of a region, distributed energy resources are generally modular unit of small capacity. So it is a small capacity modular unit so that the control and other things are easy. And standalone and grid connected operations of DER help in the generation augmentation, thereby improving overall power quality and reliability. So it can be act as a standalone mode or in a grid connected mode. So you can plan your generation very effectively and hence improve the power quality and reliability. Power quality can be improved or reliability can be improved in such a way that we are generating the power at load side, consumer side. So even there is a fault or any blackout at the main grid, you can disconnect your microgrid or distributed energy resource from the main grid and continue to be feed to your local critical loads so that your system reliability can be improved. So if there is a fault in your main grid, you can disconnect your microgrid and your critical loads can be still the power is available from the microgrid. So the entire reliable power supply can be ensured by using a distributed energy resources. So these are some of the introduction about distributed energy resource or distributed energy generation and various kinds of distributed energy resources, and we have listed some of the DERs, distributed energy resources.